Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. Today in the studio, we have Shana Haspelhorn, the Director of Marketing and Communications at Church of the Nativity. I'm so excited for you to get to learn from Shana today because she weaves digital storytelling and stories of life change all throughout this episode. Tune in to find out how you can start sharing stories of life change in your parish. Well, hi, Shana. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I can't wait for everybody to learn from you because we've been talking about digital discipleship now for some time in this series. And what you do at Nativity is just so cool and different. Everyone is going to have some great takeaways from this episode.
Thank you. I do love my job, I got to say. So I like talking about all of this stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's dive right in. So first, can you please tell our listeners a little bit about what you do at Church of the Nativity?
Sure. So I am the director of our marketing and video department. And my background, I'm a video editor and a producer. So I get to tell stories basically. So whether they're written or in videos or even sometimes art projects, I get to use a lot of different cool mediums to tell stories of life change, basically.
I love that. And you've seen your fair share of life change happen at Nativity too.
Yes, that is true. I've been here for a long time.
We were talking about that before we hit record, how many years you've been there, and it's been a lot is what we came down to.
It has. My kids have definitely grown up here. I was a contractor here, Melissa, before I came on staff. So I was editing the small group podcast videos when my kids were just in elementary, like kindergarten and young elementary school. And yeah, that's when I got started. And now they're in college. So I've been here a while.
You have been a big part of this journey. So let's talk about this. How did you see Church of the Nativity using video as a key part of communication and a discipleship strategy?
So gosh, when I first came here, we were using it. This was a great communication tool for our small group podcast. So I would edit the small group podcast videos, which was basically one presenter diving a little bit deeper into the message each week. So I would make that video and then burn it on a DVD. And then I would bring the DVD into the office. They would make a bunch of copies, 200, however many small groups we had at the time. And then the small group leader would come pick up the DVD. Can you believe that? And watch the DVD with their small group. Of course, now everything's on the internet. Everything's digital. It's so much easier. No more DVD burning. We just can put it right to that. And then they also used it for lyrics on the screens, and testimony videos are the big huge game changers that I saw happen.
And I love that because that's a big part of that storytelling of life change right there, those testimonials.
Yes.
I love that. Now, something that you do that I love, first of all, I love watching the trailers that you create, but you produce different trailers for every single message series that happens. So for people who maybe aren't familiar with why you would produce a trailer to start off a message series, can you just share first what the purpose is, and then how do they help prepare or engage the parishioners in attendance?
I love sort of having a different look and feel, a different visual representation of each series. We learn so many things here at church that it's nice. It's nice it gives everything a look and a feel, and it breaks it up. When I think of, what series is that we're talking about, I can recall the look and feel of that first, and then I'll find the title. So I think it's very memorable, and it's a way to set it aside. So for me, I'll listen to what Father Michael, what that series is going to be about, and then I can see a look or a feel. I try to bring someone else into that to collaborate with what that look and feel will be like. And then it sort of sets the tone a little bit, right? For how that's going to be perceived. And then once we have that look and feel, that gets moved to print and things on the website and everything else. So it makes it a little bit sticky. So even if it wasn't a video, if it was just a title and a look, it's just a nice way to ground each series, so that when you're talking about that series, other places like your small group podcast or slides talking about your top 3 or things like that, that everything has the same visual look, or even on social media.
I love that. Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about with this one here. So first, I want to say from the start of picking out the look and feel based on what the topic is, I got to see behind the scenes look of how you do this when we were planning for conference, which was so much fun to see the creative genius that goes into it all. I can just remember you saying, okay, guys, we know our theme is Can You Imagine? Here are some thoughts I have. Here are some hexagons that I'm thinking. I like this movement. I like these colors. And I mean, Shana, you just immediately, you knew what you wanted to do with this. And, you pulled a couple of us in and said, okay, what do you think about this? And I know Christy and I were looking at each other like, whoa. She did all of this just based on the name of the theme. That is incredible. It's impressive how you do that.
Well, thank you. That is so nice. I do feel like creativity is a muscle like any other muscle. And the more you use that creativity muscle, the easier it becomes. Like it's so funny because there are some times where I'll feel like, is this creativity well going to run dry? Am I going to run out of ideas? And then I just pray about that. And the answer is no, that's not the way it works. You just keep praying. The Holy Spirit comes in and guides what that creative process is going to look like. And you bring other people in when you run dry, because that does happen sometimes. But I try not to think too far ahead. It can be daunting to be like, oh gosh, every 6 weeks I have to do this again. It just kind of works itself out.
Well, I think it works so well. And it's definitely a talent and a gifting that you have been given for sure. But the other follow-up question I have for that is, some parishes, like my parish is a more traditional type parish. We're a rebuilt parish, but we don't use screens in the sanctuary.
Right.
So for others coming from a parish like mine who maybe haven't been to Nativity yet, can you tell us how that trailer is used during the Mass?
So before the homily, that trailer is played. It kind of gives us a minute to reset the altar too, which is nice. So I typically try to have them about 30 seconds, definitely under 60 seconds. It's just a beat. And sometimes we shorten them. So like let's say it's a 60-second trailer, by week 3, we don't need to see the whole 60 seconds again. I might shorten it to like a 20, 30-second trailer, but they like that time to move everything around a little bit. And that's played before the message. It kind of lets you know, okay, now we're diving into this topic, this message.
And if I had to guess, this is something also that kind of reminds somebody, oh, that's right. This is what we've talked about. This is what we've been talking about. Or even for somebody who maybe missed a week can be like, oh, okay, this is our theme. Is that what you're going for with it?
It's not that it's always informational. It's sometimes just a tone that it sets. Like, for instance, this series is called Discern, Listen to the Whisper. It's a summer series that we're doing right now. And it sort of sets the tone. I'm hearing beach vibes in the background, and it's like a light, airy feel. There's light coming in because it's all about listening to the Holy Spirit. So I hear them talk about the series, and that's what I'm sort of seeing in my head. And it does kind of get your brain and your body like, okay, it's time to hear this message about the Holy Spirit. So different series, they just have different vibes based on what is being communicated.
I love that. So you really take into account what they're talking about and you help tell that story with it. Incredible. Now, you talked about how in the beginning you were working on the small group videos, and back then they were on DVDs. Well, we know that still small group videos play a huge role in forming disciples beyond the weekend. So how do you ensure that these videos are both spiritually rich and then visually compelling too?
Well, so I definitely don't do that by myself for sure. We have during COVID, this has made life so much easier. We used to film our DVDs just around campus. I'm sorry, film our small group videos, DVDs. You got me back in back in the 90s now. But we used to film our small group podcasts around campus. And during COVID, we finally realized, okay, let's have a designated set and a spot where we could keep filming these week after week. That's the one thing that can be challenging about your small group content, is that it's something that needs to be done every week. And for us, our presenters are just listening to the message on Saturday, and then they come and do the small group podcast. So it's nice. That set is already there. They just slide in the cameras, the lights, everything's already there. They just have to press record and play. And we have, her name's Mary Irena. She records and edits them right there on Saturday, right after Mass. So we put that time of the set, evaluating that set ahead of time, so it's like ready to go, since it's something that needs to happen each week. We're evaluating that right now, actually, maybe looking at the lighting. We're always trying to make it better and change it and spruce up the set, or maybe, swap out a table or something like that, just to keep it fresh year after year. But then once it's set, it's pretty good for the year. And it changes based on if there's 2 people on the small group podcast, or if there's a single presenter, we'll swap out the 2 chairs and get a table and play with some plants. We play around.
It's such a fun podcasting room. I love going. I wish I had a podcasting room for that. I mean, what a cool way. But that's a great way for people to, especially parishes who maybe they're just getting into making their videos for their small groups, is, to help them. Okay, if they could pick one dedicated space, so they're not trying to rethink, I need to be somebody different, somewhere different this week. That one dedicated space already set up saves them so much time.
It does. And I just want to encourage people. We are very blessed that we made a simple set. There's wood. If you watch our small group podcast, there's wood on the wall. Those are just peel and stick, very thin wood panels that stuck on the wall to make that set nice. But the camera equipment too, you can do a lot with easy, like you can use a cell phone camera if you really needed to, and have clip-on mics. There are ways to make things look really good with very little money. It's really nice being in 2025. There's ways around not having the best camera equipment available.
Yes.
So.
Oh my gosh, Shana, I'm so glad that you said that, because a lot of our parishes, will look at Nativity and say, "Oh, that's easy for you. You have it all." But the beginnings were very humble, right? It didn't start out that way. It took years to get that way. But it is possible with a cell phone camera and a clip-on mic, and it can happen. I mean, even a microphone like this one, even just a simple Yeti mic to plug into a laptop works, something that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but they can still produce these videos.
Yes, I think it's about the content and the authenticity of the content. So the prep that goes into it, the prep that goes into the content for the messages, the prep that the presenters take, the care they take before filming, that's where the gold is. It's just those authentic stories that we're listening to.
Yes. And something that you said earlier in this question that I think is incredible, that whoever is doing the small group video that week, that they listen to the homily on Saturday, they take what they heard, and then they immediately go in and record this based on, that is just, talk about being so in tune with the message. That's incredible.
It is. I do get them a copy of it beforehand so they can prep beforehand. But it is different. It's different to read it than sit in Mass and actually experience it and feel it with all the music and everything else. So they do, our presenters go to Mass on Saturday, and it just helps you get into it a little bit further than what you've already prepped.
I love that. And then it's fresh, so then it's ready to go Sunday for when your small groups begin to meet.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, that is just dedication to that small group discipleship. I love that. Now, I'm guessing you probably have made quite a few videos in your time at Nativity. So I want you to think, whether it's way back or more recently, but what's one example of a video that you helped create at Nativity that made a really big impact?
Gosh, my brain just went so many places. There's fun videos that I've worked on that were fun. I love working when I can collaborate with other people. But I think the videos that make the most actual impact on our congregation are our testimony videos, because it has nothing to do with me or the camera crew or anything. It's just capturing these authentic stories of how God moved through people's lives, and that is just life-changing for people to listen to and hear, and it deepens their faith. People talk about these testimony videos. I get to meet the people that are giving their testimonies, and you don't normally get to meet someone new and have a chance to have these deep conversations of how God is moving in their life. So it's probably one of the favorite parts of my job is just meeting these people and having these deep conversations and getting to just capture that for our congregation. Because it's life-changing for me being part of it. It's life-changing for everyone hearing it.
That's
So
incredible.
all the bells
Now,
and whistles aside, simple stories.
yes, it's that storytelling. That's what you said in the beginning. What you do is you help tell stories, and this is huge. Now, something I want to ask you, because I'm very interested, and I'm sure our listeners are too, in how do you draw those stories out of people? So how do you, from start to finish, get somebody to tell that story in a testimony format?
So I'm going to step back a little bit. Since we preach in a message series every 5 or 6 weeks, there's like one topic that we're preaching on. We look for stories that align with that message series. So let's say we just had our Wonder campaign where we're building our next generation. We're rebuilding our hallway. So we looked for testimonies that highlighted younger kids and stories like that. And then I always say, ask your people. So if it's next gen, I'm asking our next gen leaders, the next gen team. I'm saying, hey, you know these people. I don't get to talk to them as much as you do, and they start giving me a list of people to dive in, so we can find those stories that really align with the message. And then I do what you and I are doing right now. I Zoom with them and just say, hey, I'm collecting stories. And we share those stories usually with our staff. Whether we film them or not, it helps our staff just keep going to hear the wins of what's happening. Because we put all this, as church workers, right? We put all this work into what we do all week. And it's nice to pause and hear, wow, this is actually making a difference in Melissa's life or Christy's life or Jake's life, whoever's life. So people love hearing wins. And then some stories really stand out and we want to film them, or they just perfectly align with the message. And we do a lot of prep ahead of time. We Zoom. I like to meet in person whenever possible, whatever makes that person more comfortable. Because like I said, it's not about the video editing. It's not about the camera equipment. It's about having them be comfortable on camera so that they can tell that story that a lot of times is really hard to tell, right? People talk about cancer diagnoses or grieving like losing a family member, and you want to remove all the barriers of the camera equipment and just make them really comfortable with you, and safe telling the story. Also letting them, here's another big thing that I always let people know. I know I'm talking a lot, is when people are filming testimonies, I always want them to know, like, this is your personal story and we are not a news station. I'm not going to try and, you said it, I'm going to use it. They are in control. I always put that you're in control. Don't feel nervous if you say something and then you decide, I don't want to share that. It was too personal. They are in the driver's seat. We are a church. We love you. We are happy that you're willing to share this story. And I always honor what they want to share and what they don't. And that way they're not editing in their head on the shoot. So there have been times where someone might have said something and said, please don't use that. And we never would. So you build that trust, and then that helps filming go really smooth, keeping them in the driver's seat.
Now, I have a couple more questions about this. So, how then do you use these testimonies? Are these for social? Are these shared at Mass? How does that work in alignment with the message series?
Oh, I love that too. So the testimonies that we film on video, we usually use right for Mass. I always say Mass is like our number one. I don't want anybody to see it before it plays in Mass because it has the biggest impact there. Everyone's sitting together, everyone's experiencing it together. So not only will they see the testimony, they're going to lunch or brunch with their friend after, and they're going to talk about it. So that is like your highest priority. It's not like I'm not talking to you about a video I saw on my phone, but I am going to talk to you about a video that I know you and I both saw. So I like to hold them for Mass. And then after we use them for Mass, I'd like to put them on the website or cut them down for social. Social media, shorter stories do better. Nobody's going to watch like a 6-minute testimony on social media. So we'll cut maybe clips of that, use it in a little bit different of a way for social media. Does that make sense? Yes. You know.
Now, for our parish leaders out there who love this idea and who have screens, at what point of Mass is this testimonial video played, and what's the setup for that? How does that go?
So I love all your questions. They're really great. It changes a little bit, but typically, sometimes they're played right before the message. Like we'll come out and we'll see a video, and then the pastor will respond to that, or he'll give the homily and he'll be speaking on a subject and then say, well, take a look at this testimony video from our teens. So there is an intentional setup, and sometimes even in endnotes. And endnotes is at the end of Mass. We have like a little bit of time where we communicate to the parish, like the one thing we want to leave them with. We typically try not to play videos in endnotes because that's like the time where people want to, it's like Mass is over in your head, you want to go home. But there are times for one reason or another that there'll be a video in that spot. But we typically like to tie them right to either the beginning or the middle or the end of the homily.
I love that. That's such a great use of that time too. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is cool. Now, I want to ask more questions for the people who are thinking like, yes, we can do this. Or maybe even some who are just still a little bit on the fence. So how do you balance that beauty with the quality, with limited resources or limited time? A lot of our parishes, how church work is. It's crazy busy. Sunday is always coming. So what advice do you have for those parishes or teams just getting started, who maybe they've got a smaller team and a smaller budget? You did mention some equipment ideas already, but what other advice do you have for them?
I would say stewardship. Whenever I think of testimony videos, to me, that's our highest priority, just because of what you said. I mean, church, we do need to make sure that we have enough budget to pay our staff and to keep things running, to bring people closer to a relationship with Jesus. So Stewardship Weekend is the one time of year where we say, okay, we are unapologetically fundraising. This is a church, and we want to ask you, we want to let you know ahead of time, it's Stewardship Weekend. We want to show you what's happening here, and we are going to ask you to commit to supporting your church. So we always do probably 3 testimony videos that weekend that we ask. So I think that stewardship series is the greatest, the highest priority of showing life change, because we're asking you for money. It's kind of like what I said with staff wanting to hear wins. It's a buy-in. Like if we know that we're making life change, we're going to work harder. Just like our congregation, if they know that what we're doing is mattering to people's lives, it's going to matter in their life, their mother's life, their sister's life, their friend's life, they're going to be more likely to give. So it's just an opportunity all around to show these stories of life change on that stewardship series.
Shana, that is a great piece of advice right there. So if parishes have not started with this and they are looking to start somewhere, start collecting those life change stories now.
Yes.
Start recording those, start preparing those for Stewardship Weekend in November. That is such a great idea because they've got plenty of time between now and November to start connecting with their people, hearing those stories, getting the videos done. I love that. Thank you.
And Melissa, if they don't have screens, you could still film those videos, like I said, with an iPhone, and you can have your young people help you edit them if you need. But you can send them out with QR codes. Hey, scan this QR code on the way out. Watch it on your phone. There's other ways to get stories out there right away. Put them on your website, and you can also. There are some other series where we don't do video testimonies, but maybe the pastor reads a testimony and we'll still show a picture of someone on the screen of that. That's just a lower production value way of still getting a really great testimony across without having a highly produced, highly edited video.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for answering that question that I didn't even ask because that's perfect. For those who don't have the screens, they can still either share that testimony from the pulpit, or they can then share that video on social, on their website, have it emailed out, have a QR code. I love that. So this way, everybody can do this because really it's sharing those stories of life change. I feel like that's our common thread throughout this conversation today.
Right.
Now, we know that we measure a lot at Rebuilt and Nativity. So I would love to know, how do you measure the success of your video content? Like, do you have metrics or do you look for feedback to find out if it's resonating with people?
I love this. I think on social, we're always looking at likes and engagement, and if people shared it, and there's actual engagement there. With testimony videos, I look at what is the goal. Like, so for stewardship, we're wanting you to give. So we look like, did people give? If we're doing testimonies for our kickoff series, we're going to be asking you to serve in a ministry. So then we'll have a goal going into that. Hey, we want, I'm just going to make up a number, 200 ministers to 200 new ministers serving. So then we do look at how many ministers did we get. And I know that the video is not, there's so much, as you know, with church work, it's way more than just videos. It takes a village. It takes everyone. There are so many things involved in getting these goals across the finish line. But I do look at, did we accomplish our goal? Did I do my small part of getting the ministers or, getting people to give?
Right. And all of those pieces you're talking about, they're all steps in that discipleship path right there. So
yes,
all of these videos, all of these little pieces are leading towards people taking a step on the discipleship path. And I love that. I think that's so important. Well, Shana, one thing that we talked about was how digital discipleship, especially with video, has evolved from the beginnings where you were helping with making the videos, turning them into DVDs, and then people would have to come and pick them up. So how do you see video evolving even more in church over the next few years?
That's a great question. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Now, when you scroll on your phone and you're on Instagram or Facebook, there is so much inauthentic content. There's so much AI generated content. So it's funny to use the word evolve. I would like to see the video work that we do as a church being that voice of authenticity. I mean, that voice of God that's going to get through your phone, that's going to get through your computer. It's going to look different than this AI generated perfect looking people, perfect looking everything. I think there's a real opportunity for us to be different among that, just to be real, true, authentic. And again, it goes to not worrying about, of course, videographers, video editors, we want the best camera equipment we can, but it's not about that. It's about getting that authentic voice that is going to the more AI that's on the internet, the more AI that's on social media, the clearer God's voice becomes there, because it's just so distinctly different. So I'm excited actually about just being that stable, continued voice on the internet.
I love that. I hadn't even thought about that with all of the AI out there and all of the inauthentic, like Instagram worthy, we're trying to be Pinterest perfect, right? Where you can just feel and hear the Holy Spirit through these stories. Oh, that's such an incredible point. I love that. I love that. All right. Well, Shana, let's bring it home. And what I would love for you to share, you did share some tips already for if you don't have the money for starting off, like for some high quality equipment, how you can start. But maybe we've got a parish out there who's hesitant to start with video, or maybe they feel like they don't have the skills. Where's the best place for them to begin?
Look in your congregation. It's like we're always looking to our congregation of what talents lie there. There's always going to be like a high school student or a college student that has a great camera, that knows a little bit about lighting. And you can always the internet's your friend. You can Google how to simply light a one-person interview, or how you can ask ChatGPT, ask it anything. It'll tell you. It'll ask you if you want a step-by-step guide. So use those resources of what's on the internet and how to simply stage and light something. And even if you have no lights, you can set your person that you're interviewing up in front of what's the biggest window you have? So you can play around. I always tell people, look through your camera lens, whatever that camera is. If it's your cell phone, just look at it, like spin around and see where the light hits best and what looks best. So it's just becoming a student always. And I'm still always a student. We're always evaluating. I'm excited for it now that it's summer, because it's the time where we are evaluating literally everything, how we do our communication, what the lighting looks like on our sets, just everything. And just never stop doing that. And if you just commit to how you can elevate one more step and one more step, you'll be on the same path and you'll just keep getting better and better. And how much fun is that?
My gosh, you made so many incredible points in there, but I'm going to pull the one out that I think we need to hammer home to everybody today. And that is, look in your pews. The people who know how to do this, who want to do this and love to do this, are in your pews. And all you have to do is ask them.
I love that, Melissa. And you're correct. It's like, especially, we always want to engage our next generation.
Yes.
They love it. They love to feel needed and wanted, just like we do. We all want to feel needed and wanted. And when they're a part of it, they're more connected to it. They have ownership. This is my church. I helped with the video. They bring their friends. It's all just a huge win to use the gifts and talents in your pews. You're right.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, Shana, thank you for sharing. Thank you for pouring into our listeners today and for encouraging them, for no matter where they are on this digital journey, that they can start and they can share these stories of life change.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Of course. Well, thank you. Keep producing that beautiful content and helping to make disciples. And for all of our parish leaders out there listening, we are so grateful for you. You keep on making disciples, and we'll see you next time.